What's up, everybody? Alright, so it's a late night stream, and it's the full moon, and it's actually really the full moon because earlier it was like 99.6, and tomorrow it's going to be 99.6 when it rises, so this is kind of 99.7, 99.8. This is close to full. You can see it by the sharpness of the edge of the disc, or the sphere. I see Wild Vicky in the chat. I see Melissa. What's going on? Yeah, so I had the thumbnail ready to go. The thumbnail is the not so hard problem of consciousness, but I don't know if I'm going to go super deep into it tonight, just because it's freaking late, and I just want to groove out and watch the moon with y'all. If I get some energy, I'll dive into it. But suffice to say, I was looking into all the stuff I've been talking about for the last few shows, and for a lot of shows, about how you basically make your own body, and we make consciousness as we live. We co-create consciousness with the world. But then I was looking into some, the contemporary understanding of consciousness, and I found some really interesting stuff. But turns out that there are people out there who do believe in this idea called panpsychism, which is that everything is conscious, or at some level, and that consciousness is the fundamental force of reality. It underlies everything else, and everything emerges from consciousness. And it's not actually that fringe anymore. It's kind of what Rupert Sheldrake has been talking about. So, yeah, it's very cool that that's the case, and it's one of these things where if you just imagine that every part of your body is also aware of itself, and then at every size you have a different order of magnitude of consciousness, and then the simple interaction is the self and other point and shell model. And I think it's really not so difficult to imagine that we emerge as a type of structure of this reality, and we are this structure perceiving itself in complex and variated forms. So that's what I've been thinking about for a couple of days. What's happening? Rezovsky? Morning? 7:29. Nice. I wish I had some coffee, actually. Genghis Khan, good vibes and relaxing weekend. Yeah, it is. It's Friday night. Happy Friday night. Happy full moon. A fool's dream. But yeah, just a little bit about consciousness. I'm going to talk about it more, but really, the holarchy is a word that I heard today, which was really cool. Not the hierarchy, but the holarchy, which is going all the way down and all the way up, the similar patterns, and the fact that everything has a role to play, but also that there's a structure underlying everything at all scales. So I really like that. Who was I listening? I was listening to this guy named Daniel. I think it's Daniel Theis, and Deepak Chopra, and people I typically wouldn't really listen to. But I was like trying to see what the current thinking is behind consciousness, and see if they're really completely lost. But nope. Saw a bunch of TED Talks, and some really interesting people talk about panpsychism very seriously. Whether or not it's going to take off. Panpsychism being consciousness at all scales and everywhere. Everything being consciousness in a way. And yeah, we might be at the very beginning of this revolution, but I find it really fun that we can talk about it and merge it with astronomy, merge it with history. So I'll leave some links. Let's go with some vibes here, but yeah, we'll see. It's been very cloudy, and I might have to wrap it up. Yeah, that's two things. So weather is very finicky right now, as you can see, and so I might have to quickly do that. And two, this computer's video card, I think, is actually update the drivers, so I feel like if something happens, I'll let you know. But anyway, let's get into this show for a little bit, at least till 3 a.m., so at least an hour. But yeah, I see Saturn and Jupiter coming along with the moon, so maybe we'll get a shot of them. Hopefully the clouds will dissipate shortly. I've been waiting on the street for days. song. So long for you, I've been dreaming about the song. So long for you, I've been singing about the song. So long for you, I've been dreaming about the one with you, I've been singing about the stream. So long for you, till I see the color of your eyes reflected in the picture I made for you. Let's honor the memory of Bill. He did pass, right? I think that's what happened. Bill Bryson. We're live on the moon. So cool. I think that was the first channel I found, even before Thunderbolts, even before Crow 777. Found Bill Bryson doing his Celestron 8-inch, this exact scope, with a, what did he have? He had like a PC webcam that he had modded. And he used to do these incredible close-ups. It was amazing. It was amazing. Like when I first saw it, I think it was like 2011? Yeah, 2012. And I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I feel like somebody said he passed away, but I'm not sure. Either way, just sending out good vibes to Bill. And yeah, just honor our heroes. Our local heroes, local time heroes. So good to see everybody. I see, let's see, is it Sigma Theta Phi? Not going to get into any of the details of those comments, but yeah, just sitting here with lots of clouds. But we definitely have like a nice, mostly full. It's like 99.6. 99.7. Actually, no, I think it's like 98.6. So it's like, it's as close as I think we're gonna get to a good view, because when it rose earlier, it wasn't really full, and when it rises tomorrow, same thing. It's gonna be like, I think it's 99.6. So it's gonna be already waning by tomorrow evening. Big up Mr. Bill, exactly. So yeah, just continuing the tradition of having an open mind, looking for cool stuff on the moon, pushing the technology. And of course, shout outs to Crow for doing amazing work early on. And yeah, I mean, I'd be remiss in saying that Ben Davidson didn't also kind of get me thinking about a lot of things like solar flares and looking at the sun. And that was also around 2012, so Suspicious Observers. Eyes open, no fear. Guy waking up at like 4 in the morning, I was like, oh my god. But definitely, it was different stuff, you know, because before that, online was really weird, and YouTube was really strange, and people started getting their stuff together around 2011, 2012. And of course, 2012, the world didn't end, so after a long, heavy trip, we had to dig ourselves out to where we are today. Yeah, maybe he just dipped off of Facebook. Maybe he didn't die. I don't want to spread the wrong information. Somebody told me Crow died, and Crow's fine. So maybe Crow and Bill are both fine. Forgive me for misdirecting. Anyway, let's. I can't talk too much tonight. I am literally like just burnt from talking so much, but I had to do a full moon with y'all. That's how I do. So let's listen to some tunes here. Hopefully, let's meditate on some cloud clearage. I'd love to see some Joopy. Joopy Joops. almost forgot that about the Queen, but yeah, it's very funny to me, I guess. Not that she passed, but that the Smiths were trending. I don't know why, but it's just like the whole idea that we live in such a crazy world where a band that wrote a song, the Queen, the album, it's The Queen is Dead, right? Yeah, Queen is Dead. Back in the 80s as a statement, now comes all the way back around, gets repopularized when the actual event happens, and that's what is being talked about. I mean, besides abolish the monarchy. I don't know how anyone feels about it, but I think it's an interesting time for Earth where we are moving away from the idea of this inherited legacy, but also really not, because ultimately legacies are still inherited and fortunes are inherited, so the lineage does persist even though we don't call it kings and queens anymore. But I don't know, I think it is an interesting moment in time. We can't take any gravity away from that, but truly funny, like dark funny, because death is kind of ironic, right? We get this life of which is imbued with so much grace and beauty, to have it all ripped away from us at some point. Wait, this stream got really dark. See, this cloud stuff needs to clear. Come on, let's go. Exactly, 10 people watching. What's up, Z Proxy? How you doing? Happy full moon. Yeah, so then we were talking about Artemis. Artemis should be great, I hope, at some point, once they stop leaking hydrogen fuel cells. I don't know. I'm keeping an open mind about that. I'm hopeful. Whatever it may be, agency science or not, I'm all about watching what goes on. Catania Bertaria? That's a cool name. Catania Bertaria. Wow. Full moon, yeah, this is between basically the two rises, like today and tomorrow, which are going to both not really be full. This is pretty closer to full. So it'll be more full in the next like 5 hours or so, but this is, once it clears, you can see the sharpness of the edges to determine. Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, of course, the manned missions are not planned for a couple more years, and we're trying to get, there is actually a craft on its way to the moon, I think, like in a couple of months. I forget the name of it, but there is going to be an orbiter, a new orbiter, and then Artemis is going to launch and do this kind of trial run, and then we're going to have manned missions again. So I don't know. I don't want to be pessimistic about it mainly, so I'm really just waiting and seeing on that stuff. I have researched all the rockets, and I feel like maybe I'm hopeful. Everyone says like I should have faith in it, so I'm trying to have a little faith, because it's good to weigh out the cynicism with some faith. But yeah, so the Queen's funeral is probably going to be a massively worldwide event, take over this whole week. They were ready to go with all of that. It's been, I think, a thing in the making for many, many years. So we'll see how that all shakes out, but I definitely feel the energy of it. I do remember when Diana died back in '97, where I was, and that was one of those first, like, when you're a teenager and you notice like a global event like that. Many more would come, but that was one of the first. Ooh, I see some clarity. Are we getting it? There we go. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I made the mistake of engaging on the last show about concepts of our planet, but tonight is mostly about vibes, full moon, and consciousness. And whatever theory anybody believes in, we still have some sort of consciousness, right? So, mostly the stuff I was researching for the couple of days. One day, yesterday I was off, and then this whole while I've been trying to say this idea that everything is consciousness, or everything is aware, or everything is conscious. And then we were talking about like what is consciousness itself, and there seems to be this kind of an array of different ideas and all these different discussions. And I was thinking, is it very limited? Do people really think that we're these machines and that humans are different than small things and small things different than large things? But no, I went back and I listened to Rupert Sheldrake talk about panpsychism, which is awareness everywhere, consciousness, everything is conscious, and it seems like other people are also talking about panpsychism in a way that makes in a way that is a starting point at least, if nothing else. And they also mentioned there was a TED talk where this guy was saying, well, what if the very basis for all reality is consciousness and everything is an emergent phenomenon? And so that's sort of what I think it is. I mean, I've not always thought that, but at least for 5 years, given the electric universe paradigm, it's that what we perceive as consciousness is the awareness of the whole, of the whole universe, the whole Godhead, creating little fractals to experience the self. And so the whole etheric realm, even with oscillations and everything going on inside it, or continued through it, is the universe trying to, or not trying to, but very capably perceiving and watching itself. And this interaction between self, or self and now othered self, is what consciousness is. As soon as something can perceive the world around it, it immediately takes on the form of consciousness. Now, is it high-level, complex order consciousness, like magnitudes of human consciousness? Maybe not, right? But the fundamental geometry of it is the same, and the fundamental spatial awareness is the same, and light is the same, gravity is the same, and it's not the same amount, it's just the same rule set. So I like this idea of panpsychism. I like the idea of consciousness being fundamental, even more fundamental than gravity and light. Well, not even, I don't know about light, but I think because you could say consciousness is light, right? So that's what I've been thinking about. That was the title of this stream, or at least the thumbnail. The not so hard problem of consciousness, because science now typically, and clickbait titles, just want to make a mountain out of a molehill and complexify and really convolute so many ideas and or get a rise out of people. And I don't know if that's a bad or good thing, but to me it kind of just sullies the real majesty of what we're looking at, which is the fact that the moon is likely a conscious entity of sorts. And so if we imagine that very small creatures have an order of magnitude of consciousness, and we can outsmart them, then what is the moon doing, and what is Jupiter doing, and Saturn? They must have an entirely higher order magnitude consciousness that we can't even comprehend. And yet we have an astronomy, like a mainstream cosmology, that talks about how really only human beings are special. Even though in the same sentence they'll tell you we're not so special, everything's actually, it's just that, and it's simply this, and we're just a total coincidence. But in fact, what's so interesting, if we look at it through the stellar metamorphosis idea, is that at the point Earth could create people, like little filaments, fungus, people fungus, it did. And therefore we are an emergent phenomenon. Like our conscious perception of self is an emergent phenomenon of self, right? So it's not like we emerged and then it's like, well, why are we here, and what's the big, great big question? Like, how do we even have consciousness? But I think if you look at it as consciousness is fundamental, then you start to see that no, we are an emergent phenomenon of consciousness. Therefore, the question is wrong as to whether, like, how do we define consciousness? By being conscious. It's kind of a circular answer, but it's because we're asking a question that shouldn't be asked, simply because if you don't want to be conscious, you can you have the choice, you know. And at one point we weren't conscious, and then you're conscious and unconscious, conscious, unconscious, flicking back and forth. It's a really cool idea, much more exciting than our old school ideas. Gnostic Chef, what's going on? Light is source, or as you are saying, consciousness. Well, yeah, I mean, I think at some point we do get to at some point we get to a point of, you know, what is etheric potential? You know, what are the Birkeland currents? What is electricity fundamentally, or dielectricity? What is the electromagnetic field? What is the torus and the hyperboloid? Like, why these geometries and why these shapes? But I would say that like there's so much we need to get to in order to be able to start asking those questions, to be honest, because I don't know what the answers to those things are, but I do know that those are the underlying principles. And right now we have status quo underlying principles that are quite antiquated, and you question them and people lose their minds over it. Like, they're like, well, we have them and you can't break them. But really, you need these new ideas to kind of stir up and create remixes and evolve the concepts. And so in no other field, really, people, like, imagine people were still playing basketball and football and billiards and, or I'm just picking up some random sports, but like, imagine they were playing it like 100 years ago. No, you evolved the sport. You train differently. You talk about it differently because things evolve. So I don't understand, like, it's such a weird rationale to deny, to say, oh, you came up with a new science idea? How could you? This is blasphemous, and we already figured it all out, and you must be an idiot, and you must be wrong too. It's just like, just the weirdest thing. But yeah. NGC, what's up, Spaceling? What's happening? Hope you're doing well. Hope your dad's doing well. Hoosier, you take it easy. Take care. Yeah, Rupert has some great talks. I rewatched some of his stuff today just because sometimes I think, like, oh, I've watched all these things and maybe I'm just reinterpreting them the way I want to, but in fact, like, no, it is exactly what he's saying. You know, we communicate through fields, through resonant fields outside the body, the extended mind. He goes on to explain the idea of why Cartesian dualism is not great. You know, I've mentioned Descartes many times, but it's mostly because Descartes did a lot of research. It's not because he was right about everything. And so this idea that Rupert Sheldrake puts forth about how people can sense when they're being watched, people can tell when their dogs can tell when people are coming home, a mother can feel her child, and on and on and on. And this guy has done 40 years of research, and basically, I don't know, like, I feel like Rupert Sheldrake should have 1 million followers on YouTube, but instead he has like 30,000, something ridiculous. But yeah, he just turned 80 years old, so sending lots of respect to Rupert Sheldrake. True legend. He's like a Halton ARP level genius, I think. Mostly because he just kind of, he's been saying this for so long, like he at least 45 plus years he's been like, yeah, everything is conscious, consciousness is fundamental, and telepathy is real. It seems obvious, and people are like, yep, crackpot. Like, it's really terrible. Okay, happy full moon. Let's do some tunes here and meditate on some cloud cloud. What is it? Cloud busting. Let's bust some clouds here. just hopping to say what's up to Fantasy XC. What's going on, brother? Welcome. Happy full moon. NGC, Vicky, Z Proxy, Astralis. Who else is hanging out? Let me know. Oh man, it did clear, so a little bit, dare I say. So let's let it keep going here. I think it likes the tunes. This next one is called Feel For You, one of my faves. So I think it's clearing, and that last one is honestly like the kind of stuff that I'd like to write more of, these grooving kind of horn sections and solos and stuff, but sometimes you just capture an idea just right, and that last one was it. But I do love Strut, of course, and Light of the Moon, and so many others that define this channel. What's going on, Nebula Orion? Miss my 10-inch Dobsonian. I've never had a Dobsonian, not just yet, but I will, ultimately. Let me adjust this moon a little bit. See if we can't get some detail. There we go. Like, I like the detail, but I do love the clouds. It's hard to get both. NGC says, did you hear about the new mineral the Chang'e 5 is bringing back from the moon? It's called Changasite. It's a single crystal. Can we zoom into Oceanus Procellarum to see the dig site? Chang'e 5, I think, is that the one at Sinus Iridum, at Sinus Iridum? Because the last couple of nights we were right there, like at the very rim of it. But I feel like it's the Chang'e 3. Chang'e 5 might be on the far side. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me just look it up. I sit here with the capacity to look things up. All right, so where did this go? Chang'e 3. Where did it land? is it? Okay, December 2020. Oh, you did say Oceanus Procellarum, but that's also where Sinus Iridum is. Let's see, orbiting the moon. Training lunar samples. I can't exactly find the landing site. Yeah, let me know if you can find that, because I'm not finding it readily. I know, well, I'm reading the whole thing live, and, well, I'm not reading it to y'all, but I'm just trying to figure it out. But it says, landed on the surface after separating from the orbiter. It doesn't say exactly where it landed, otherwise we'd find it. Oh, here we go. Landing site near Louville Omega Hill. So Louville crater. Where's Louville? Louville. There's a lunar impact on Sinus Roris, a bay in the northern part. Okay, Sinus Roris is that Borealis? Alright, Sinus Roris is a dark solid plain north of Oceanus Procellarum. I think I can recognize this. Where is this exactly? Alright, I got it pulled up now. So, when it clears up, we'll try and get in there. Fantasy saying, I'm waiting for Artemis, watch it explode. I swear, so much bad luck. Oh my god, I don't want to, yeah, like I said earlier, I'm trying to keep an open mind and positive about it. I hope it works. I really would be sad if there's a massive disaster or it got permanently delayed or canceled. But I'm also realistic because that's happened twice or 3 times now in my life under different presidents where they're like, we're going to the moon. No, we're not. We're going to the moon. No, we're not. All right. No Nebula Ryan. I don't think links work from subscribers just because, yeah, I don't know why. I don't think I can even turn it on. But you can email me or leave me a comment and I can check it out. So let's play some tunes and hopefully our moon stays clear here. Clear hair. Maybe golden.
Don't sweep the streets no more.
Yeah, just quickly want to say what's up to Nebula Orion and just mention that, yeah, right, maybe before you showed up, I was giving Bill Bryson a huge shout out. I don't talk about him as much as I first did, but like when I started this show back in 2015, yeah, it was basically Bill Bryson and Crow 777 and very few other like kind of independent, backyard astronomers doing very high quality moon footage. But yeah, for a few, like I watched Bill for a few years before I even thought about buying a scope, and then I was like, man, like this guy like bought $1,000 scope, I mean $1,500 scope, had a webcam, and was getting these like just unbelievable images of the moon. So definitely know about Bill. We're live on the moon, but I don't. The only thing I don't share with Bill is that I don't think we can really see aliens or alien bases on the moon. I used to think we might, but I have moved away from that because I think that essentially like organized architecture can look like, landscapes can look like organized architecture for the simple reason that organized architecture emerges from an ordered consciousness, an electrical consciousness, and therefore geology also emerges from the same consciousness, and therefore geology can look like faces and people and buildings and spacecraft. And I just don't think back in the day people really had that full understanding of it. Um, well, do we see craft in our skies? I think we do also see like so-called UFOs or UAPs, but again, having captured a lot of them and a lot of different anomalies, I think that a lot of that technology is our, our work, human work, maybe not extraterrestrial just yet. And I keep studying and thinking about it, not because I don't think there could be life out there, but because the origin of life is still so convoluted when you look it up. But now that I've started to understand potentially that this idea of stellar metamorphosis, where a planet will cook up to a certain point of complexity, and then ultimately people emerge from that complexity because life is fractal and life ultimately will push itself into the smallest orderly systems, and we're very tiny orderly systems like a fungus on the back of a giant conscious earth. And therefore I wonder like what other planets in our solar system then could really have human life, let alone life that has discovered anti-gravity or plasma engines or rockets. And then you think about civilizations that might come from extraterrestrials from other solar systems or other star systems, and how they might travel and how they might have evolved. And that's where you get to a place where you're like, well, possibly there might be this connection where civilizations have come from other galaxies or other solar systems, but just not understanding any of that and just completely relying on something like Drake's equation, this idea that we can just judge based on statistical assumptions that we know how much life is out there, or that we can judge based on emotional yearning, as like the famous quote of, it would be an awful shame if there wasn't life out there. That's not really science. So I feel like when you really think about it, if life is an emergent property of consciousness and so is Earth, then you get logic and some rationale into like how life emerges from planets, and then you look up an Earth and you're like, well, maybe this Earth might support complex life because it has done so here on Earth. Yeah, like I said, let's see, with these clouds, I don't know. Nebula says, "Be awesome if the ISS passes the moon in your stream." It's so rare. Like I used to have to kind of chase down those particular ISS transits, but I have captured it a couple of times, and actually once it really did happen live on stream. And for a long time I didn't understand what it was because it was such a unique shape, but it is fun to capture it. And I not know him personally, but this guy in, where is he from? I want to say he's Italian, but man, there's this European that I know that's very vague, But this guy does such good shots of the ISS, like these. His name's Christian something. It'll come back to me. I just haven't looked up his work in years. Spacelings unite under a full moon. Universeling. I like that. Imagine. Oh, you're talking about migrates of aliens. Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Bits of matter from every planet in stellar metamorphosis, or a planet's life cycle or a moon's life cycle. So bits of matter are flying throughout space. So tiny bits of the moon are flying to Earth, and tiny bits of Mars are landing on the moon, and the moon's debris is falling into Earth. I feel like Earth, the whole solar system is way more alive and way more active than than the narrative has kind of led humanity to believe. And now that we're so down that rabbit hole, people are like, no, we can't change. It's really just only humans are special and everything else isn't. But probably everything is emergent and special. Because people don't like saying they're special, right? Dang. Dang, it got cloudy again. Oh well. That's why technology is rad, because you can see the moon from behind the clouds. What's going on, Justin T? Hey, hey, hey. Alright, let's keep rolling with some tunes here. It's 3:15 a.m., 3:14 a.m., and yeah, I'm going to go for a little bit longer, but not too long. I am getting a little tired here. But I think this will be the last moon I do for this cycle. That's not true. It's the last moon I do for a few nights, and then maybe I'll switch over to the 11 so we can see some Jupiter and Saturn and some waning crescent moon. But this has been a really fun cycle, talking about a lot of interesting ideas, especially stellar metamorphosis by Jeffrey Walensky. If you haven't checked it out, please go check it out. I'm going to stop nagging you all about it on the next moon cycle, but for this moon cycle, definitely check out Jeffrey Walensky, Rupert Sheldrake, Eileen McCusick, Bill Bryson, of course. Who else have I been watching? I mean, those are great. Or Halton ARP, if you don't know about Halton ARP. Let's put on some Dream Me request by NGC. Let's go with this one.
In the rain, in the cold, dinner around the road. 17, couldn't tell you if I was living a dream. What could I do? For a while I played the field. How could I prove the hidden yield without the blues to feel? My heart was cool and left no residue. Catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low. Look goes high and high, as friends you used to know. Catch you when you fall, catch you when you're low. I love you, take a good look, it's a simulation. Wake up, it's solitary. Wake up, it's imaginary. And don't you know, your life is worth more than what you have, take a good look, it's a simulation. Wake up, it's solitary. Wake up, it's imaginary. Man, don't you know, your life is worth more than Catch me if you fall, catch me if you're low. The loot goes high and up, as fast as you can go. Oh, catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low.
Yeah, y'all. So let me know in the chat if I should stay longer or if everyone's exhausted too. It's 3:23 a.m. The clouds outside look pretty brutal. It's thick as a brick, and not in a good way. So we're watching some pre-recorded footage, and I'm sort of falling asleep here clearly because I can't string together 3 words. But let me know, should we wait it out a little longer, like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, or should we call it a night and we've seen our full moon a little bit? And I'll let another track play here. Alright, y'all. The people have spoken, so I'm gonna call it a night. It was good to hang with y'all for a little bit. This moon cycle is amazing. If I don't see you for a couple of days, I'll be back. And sending y'all lots of high vibrations, lots of love. Be safe, be brilliant. NGC, Rizovsky, Nebula, Vicky, Z Proxy, Astralis, Fantasy, Justin. Let's see who else joined us tonight. Catania, Bertaria, and that's all I got. But Jedi Princess and Miguel and so many cool people. Vision is scary. We miss him. And Dagger Spells and whoever's catching this tomorrow. Hope you have a wonderful day. Happy full moon. Take care, everybody. It's your captain signing off for another wonderful trip through space.